All right. Well, listeners, I have a special treat for you this evening, or whenever you're hearing it. It's evening for me. It may be kind of late, late afternoon for Kyle. I have Kyle Brose on the line or on the screen. How you doing, Kyle?
Well, I'm better than I deserve. Things are going well out here.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, Kyle, tell us a little bit about you. I think you're the owner of Allegiant Home Inspection in Washington, and I looked at it. It looks like you're across the water from Seattle. I forgot the name of the town, but I'll let you tell us.
Sounds good. Yes, I'm Kyle Brose. Myself and my wife, Alicia, run Allegiance Home Inspection, and we've been married for just about 4 years, expecting our first baby girl here in September.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. That's one of the highlights of our life lately.
Congratulations.
And we live about 45 minutes south of Seattle, and we do most of our work it's a ferry ride away from Seattle. So there's a nice big peninsula out there across the water from Seattle, and we do the majority of our business over there. And at this time, I do my best to not drive up into Seattle because it gets a little crazy up there. Someday we might branch out and move up north, but we stay a little more rural these days.
What town, what town are you in, and what towns do you serve currently?
We're based out of Bremerton, Washington. We do the whole Kitsap County Peninsula. That's where the heart of our business is. And then we do Gig Harbor, Pierce County, Mason County, and the surrounding areas.
Cool,
but
cool.
Most of our team lives in Kitsap County.
Okay, cool. Well, Kyle, first of all, appreciate you being on here. We've been in a group together, and I've really admired some of the insights you brought and energy you brought to that group, and I appreciate you letting me be a part of it. Congratulations on the baby girl. Get as much sleep as you can now, because I'm telling you, I've been through it twice. And, oh, man, that's one thing you'll be missing after September is sleep.
Yeah. I might have to get some fathering advice from you next time we run into each other.
Yeah. So this is your first child?
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. But I'll tell you this, man, you come home and it's like those, and if they give you that extra day at the hospital, take it, trust me. But you come home, everything's great, but these feedings, they're like every 2 hours and they take like 45 minutes. So then, oh my gosh. And it's just, I mean, you literally are sleepwalking. I know that I'm depressing you, but you're literally like sleepwalking, falling asleep at traffic lights. And do you ever remember, like, when you're back in college or whatever, and you stayed out all night and you felt like crap the next day? Well, it's like that. But back then you felt like you deserved it. Now you're like, man, I didn't have any fun. Why am I, you know?
Yeah, I did have a little bit of fun in lieu of what's upcoming, so it's all good.
There you go. There you go. Well, I don't want to give too much information. Mine was actually more like work, because we had a little trouble there, but it starts out fun, but it turns into work. All right. Well, TMI there. Well,
yes,
Kyle, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your background and how did you wind up becoming a home inspector? Because not too many of us, I didn't even know what a home inspector was when I was growing up. So tell us your background. How'd you wind up becoming a home inspector?
Yeah, Preston, similar to you, I didn't know what home inspections were maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I have a background in construction. I started working construction in high school, and I've watched my dad start a lot of different businesses growing up. So I've always had a passion for business, and I learned to enjoy construction growing up throughout high school. And I've also always wanted to be a firefighter when I've started down that path a few times. So growing about 4.5 years ago, I was working for a construction company in Seattle, and one of the guys I worked with had done home inspections for a little while after the economy went down for a little while. He lost his construction company, so he got into home inspections, and that's the first time I heard about it. Mm-hmm. From there, I've seen the hand of God in work in this whole process. It's been really amazing to see, because I started looking into home inspections after my friend Jason told me about it, and I thought, well, that seems like something I could enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. He thought I'd be pretty good at it because I've worked a lot of different kinds of construction, and I'm pretty good. I enjoy being around people. So I started just looking into it. About that time, I actually headed down to Mexico for a few months, working on a little building mission trip down there.
Oh.
And right as I was about to come home, my mom actually ran into a guy doing a home inspection up the street from where they lived at the time.
Okay.
And she said, "Hey, my son's looking into home inspections. Would you mind if he gave you a call when he gets home?" Right. So I gave the guy a call, and his name was Daryl. We ended up becoming really good friends, and I started just working for free for him. For about the next 5 months, I would just stack up as many hours construction as I could, and then I would work 3 or 4 really long days, and then go and do 2 or 3 days just riding along with him, just observing cool. And starting to help and carry his tool bags around. And eventually he started paying me, and I let him know actually from the first ride along that I really wanted to have my own, I was going to start my own company, and cool. He seemed to be okay with still teaching me the ropes. Mm-hmm. So that ended up turning into a good friendship. He actually ended up passing away about a year and a half after we were friends. He actually passed away on a home inspection. But so that was, I mean, obviously that sucked, but I was able to be a really good friend to him his last year and a half, and he was able to pass on the baton to me for home inspections. And I'm always thankful. I'll always be thankful for Daryl's help in getting into this. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank God for the Daryls out there, because there's a lot of there's a lot of guys that don't want to train their competition or something. And I get it, but then again, I feel like if this guy's wanting to do it, he's going to do it whether it's me or somebody else. And I'd rather be friends with guys and have an insight, because I'm really good friends with some of my competitors. We don't tell each other every single thing, but we help each other out. I mean, every once in a while, it's just something I can't handle or he can't handle, or we're too busy or something like that. And I know one of my competitors, his wife is a realtor, and I get a lot of her inspections because, he doesn't want that conflict of interest. So, I mean, to all the guys listening, you're going to have competitors. Isn't it better to get along with them and just, just like anything else? I mean, I mean, you're going to have competitors. It's a lot better life if you get along with them than you hate each other.
I agree.
So cool. Well, so you started, this was about 4 years ago, and I think in our pre-talk you said you're getting ready to hire your third guy, and that's amazing, man. I was like 8 years by myself before I ever hired anybody. So tell us what that journey's been like, hiring people, and tell us about the first one, because that's the one people struggle with. And I do want all the listeners to know there's nothing wrong with being a one-man shop. I'm not suggesting that you should have to be there's advantages and disadvantages of both. And sometimes I wish I was a one-man shop again, but I'm sure you've had a few of those moments. but anyway, just tell us, so how did you go from helping Daryl to where you are now?
Yeah, so just starting out learning about home inspections, it was all overwhelming at first. And then once I started to get pretty proficient with it, I also had the thoughts, man, how could you ever teach anybody to do what we do in home inspections and trust them to do it at the level I'm learning to do this, to serve the clients? So it was just me for a while, and I started getting really busy. And then I did start listening to your podcast a few years ago. And
thanks. Till my audio got too bad.
Oh yeah, well, I did. Between everybody else, I did message Preston a couple years ago and let him know his audio was pretty poor. I love the content, but the audio was poor. It's improved a lot recently.
All right, I have to answer that, and I'll let you finish your thing. But okay. I was using this app, and the app got bad. I kept emailing them. I was using an app to call people, because this was before Zoom and all this stuff, and it would record it for me. And then it started having this dang clicking in it. I mean, it was in the app, and they wouldn't change it. So I said, I'm not blaming, but I am blaming. So I was like, because when I originally started, a lot of podcasters would use Skype and all this. And I'm like, man, I don't even hardly know how to use Skype. And, I'm talking to a lot of inspectors that, we're kind of new to this. I need something I can record over the phone. And so then Zoom came along, and this is real easy because you just have to push that thing and go. So, but I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. There's a couple of podcasts there that suck because of the audio. And I feel really bad for those guys that are interviewed. I probably need to go back and interview. But anyway, I'll let you answer the question now.
Okay. Absolutely. So it went, at first it was like, I wanted to have a business. How could you ever train somebody up to do this? But part of what happened was listening to other guys come on to this show and hearing how they did it, and that, oh, it is possible to train up other inspectors and teach them how to do things. And then at some point launch them and trust that they're going to rep the brand well and serve our clients well. So that's one way. My vision started changing at that point into growing something more than just me working my butt off all the time, being gone 12 hours a day doing home inspections. And then the first person I approached about coming on as an inspector and working with me was my brother. He's 2 years younger than me, and I set up a big presentation on a flip chart, and I presented it to my brother Joel. And he'd been working on becoming a firefighter for a long time. And I thought, if I just pitch this right to Joel, maybe he'll want to come on and grow this company with me. Right. And he ended up thinking about it, and he's now a firefighter. So he kept on going down that path, and that's awesome. But through that, he and his wife found out I was looking at growing this company, and they helped me have on my radar that one of our mutual friends, his name is Richard, was kind of interested in doing something like this. He actually was my wife's old youth pastor too. Oh, wow. And I've known the guy for a few years. So I presented the idea to Richard, and Richard has been an incredible fit. He's a great guy, highly integrous, hard worker, smart, great people skills. And he had a little bit of construction experience in different areas. So as most people will tell you, if you find people with the right character, you can teach them the skills of home inspecting. And that's exactly what Richard was. So he was our first hire, and he's continued to be a good fit in the leadership as far as training people. So that's how how it all went, going from just myself to having our first guy.
Awesome. Now, were you a little bit, it sounds like you handled it really well. A lot of guys struggle with that, hiring that first one, because everybody feels like nobody can do it as good as they can. Did you struggle with that, or?
That was a huge struggle. I mean, even just the thought of how, like at the beginning, even thinking about having somebody else do it and all the potential liability and all of that, it was a huge mental struggle more than anything. And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I got a follow up to that. Now, how do you handle it? Because this happened, because I know it's happened to you, where the realtor calls, they got to have Kyle, but you really want to kind of wean some of them off on some of your other guys. How do you handle that?
We're still in the pits of that with some agents at this point, although they're becoming more and more accepting. Right. The biggest thing was the training process. Like I've heard guys share on this show before, the process of just having those guys with you on a lot of inspections. Yep. And then introducing them, and the real estate agents start to see that, oh, that guy is doing more and more of the work, and Kyle seems to trust what he's doing, so I guess I can trust him. And then when I first launch somebody out there, I'll do a few more follow-up calls with the agent, especially on those first jobs the guy goes on. I'll call and just get feedback and see how it went, and then reinstill in that agent that, oh yeah, we really trust so-and-so, they're doing a great job, and we just wanted to follow up and see if you had any feedback. So that process has helped smooth it out a lot.
You're doing it the right way. It's a struggle, but eventually you got to pull yourself a little bit more out of the field and work on the business, instead of in the business. But I still do inspections. I mean, I still have a few, Okay. So Kyle, tell us about something you do a little different, you think, that might benefit the audience.
This is a great question. As I was looking at this, you sent this question over to me, and a good question to be thinking about much more. Right now, the main things, I mean, we do a free pest inspection included with the home inspection. So each of our guys are licensed state pest inspectors as well. So that's one little thing. We give out one of Internachi's little home maintenance books to the clients. I mean, that's another little thing, but especially new home buyers, they seem to find that as a nice little touch. And then we just handle each inspection like it's a home education course. So our goal, and I know each one of our guys, their heart is to serve the client when we're there, teach them about the home they're looking at buying, and that we just leave them better than we found them, and not not freak them out, but just teach them a lot. That's
good.
I think those are the things we shoot for.
Well, and I do ask that question, does somebody have a USP? But the bottom line is, I think it's a relationship business, and people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So, you can have all the bells and whistles and all the stuff you want, but basically you just got to be a person that people like and trust. I mean, that's, you if you're that guy and the other person has every little gizmo in the world, he might get some stuff off the internet or something. But as far as realtor referrals, that guy that everybody knows, likes, and trusts, that's the guy who's going to win. I'll guarantee you. I did want to back up. I forgot to ask. So in Washington, like, if you wanted to hire a new guy today, what's your training process look like? Is it licensing in Washington? I'm just not familiar. I know some states are licensed, some aren't. Some, the association certifications they seem to substitute in some. We have licensing here, and some of us have the association designations too, but it doesn't. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't mean as much, but I don't think it seems like those states that aren't licensing, that sort of takes the place of it. But anyway, got off on a rabbit hole. How would you, if you hired a guy today and, you ramped up the marketing, how would you get them from, I like this guy, I want to hire him, to out on his own? How would you do that?
Washington. So to answer that first question, Washington is one of the licensed states out there.
Okay.
I kind of like it because it gives, there's at least some sort of a standard that is, a home inspection is at least this bare minimum of standard.
Right.
And we can go above and beyond from there, but at least gives that bare minimum of what a home inspection is. So I like that. And our training process, as you mentioned earlier, we have 2 inspectors that are out in the field doing jobs on their own. And our third inspector, he's just finishing up. So he's at the tail end of training right now. Day one through maybe the first 10 or 15 inspections, they're just watching, they're taking notes. We also try to get our software in their hands right away so that they can start scrolling through how the different narratives are laid out and where to find stuff. But their job those first few days is just to watch what the flow is of a home inspection, observe how the interaction is between myself and the clients and myself and the real estate agent.
Right.
Yeah, and then just start to get a feel for the overall big picture. And then after that, they start checking doors and windows and doing some of the smaller things, just taking on a little bit of responsibility. And then they phase into we just gradually over the next couple months give them more and more responsibility of the inspection. And then at some point, I usually will hand over the mechanical stuff last. So I'll switch over, and then I'll start doing the smaller things. They start doing some of the mechanical. We're still both on the job, and knocking out one job at a time, and each having different phases. And then towards the tail end of the training process, the inspector starts to do the whole inspection, and I pull myself back. This is one of the hardest parts, really, for somebody training. It's just pulling myself back and shutting my mouth and letting them explain stuff. And now I'm taking notes and I'm providing feedback, and they're just polishing up. So our third guy's just in that stage right now where he's just polishing up. Along with that, one of the things they learn along the process of doing sections of the inspection is they're starting to get to explain those sections as well.
Right.
So and that's one of the bigger challenges is how do you talk about things you find. So
that's awesome. Yeah. No, it seems like you're pretty organized there, and that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, the very end of that is now once they are doing jobs on their own, once they launch out and are out there without me, I mean, I'm checking and proofreading every report, and I'm doing a lot of checkup, follow-up, especially for the first little while. And then you do less and less as the time goes on. So that's how it looks.
No, that's kind of what we do too. I always say it's like when I first start out training a guy or Chip trains a guy, it starts out, he's a fly on the wall just observing us. But at some point I got to get to the point where I'm the fly on the wall observing him. And it's a process to get there. And everybody's different. It's funny. It's like, some guys pick up on the inspection part right away. Some guys already know a lot of that. Of course, sometimes you have to unlearn some things. And then some people struggle with the computer part of it. And some people, pick that up, so everybody, has like these different strengths and weaknesses. Out of curiosity, and I'm not endorsing a certain, I think there's a whole lot of reporting softwares out there that are good. If you don't mind me asking, what do you guys use and what do you like about it?
We have, since I started, we've used report host software, and it's got the job done. I think it's a little bit behind some of the other leaders out there.
Right.
And this little segue into, we have started a report writing software company. So
That's right.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Okay, I'll do that, and I'll try to keep it brief. But
it's your show. You're the guest.
Thank you. So myself, a software developer named Andy, who's incredible, like off the charts, smarts in technology. And then David, who's actually an inspector that works with us. It's just super smart guy. We've all come together, and we're starting to create a report writing software called Vestaspec. And
how do you spell that? Let me write that down.
That's V as in Violet, ESTASPEC.
Is that to be the website too, Vestaspec?
Yeah, and we're in the earlier stages of launching that website and launching the software. So as we're talking now, there should at least be the bones or the landing page of that website up tomorrow.
Okay, Vestaspec.com.
Yes, Vestaspec.com.
I'm going to check
it out. By the time you're listening, there should at least be something out there for it. And we're looking for ideas and pain points on what guys would love to see in their report writing software. But some of the things we're really excited about is a voice to narrative recognition, where we talk it, and then it doesn't just talk to text. We talk about some keywords, and it plugs in those narratives right into the report. So that's one thing we're working on, as well as creating a repair verification report, which is like a reinspection type report. Right. That's one thing we've had a pain point with in our company is we go out and do the inspection, and then they call back right before closing and want us to do a repair verification, and we haven't had a real good standard to work from. So we're going to have a nice system in our report with that.
Oh,
so yeah,
go ahead. Sorry. A couple of pain points if you like. A report writing software. Well, just Chip handles it all with all my inspectors. But the one thing, I don't want to name any names or anything, but the software we used to have, he had to go into each inspector's computer to change the template every time we wanted to make a change, or via maybe he could do it over the internet, but it's freaking pain, man. So he wanted a web-based thing. So now it's like, he makes one change and everybody's changes. It's just so much easier. Plus, we need everybody on the same page. Because it's like, we make these changes, and a report is a living, breathing thing. It will evolve over time. The report you write today, and you go back and look at one from 3 years ago, there's going to be a lot of changes in your wording and things. And our state mandates that we say certain things, and then they change that too. So anyway, a web-based thing where you can, if you've got multiple people, you don't have to go onto their computers. It changes. The other thing I'd recommend, and it may be like your verification thing, is this is awesome for the realtors, a automated repair request. So, basically they go in, generate repair request, and each item pops up, and usually they have the choice of either repairing it, monetary compensation, or not repairing it. And boom, and it sends it out instead of taking the summary and circling. We want 3, 4, 12, and 15. We're okay. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the way they usually do it, and it's a big old mess. So anyway, any possibility you could add some stuff like that? That's
definitely on our radar. Both of those are. But we're looking for more feedback as you think of things. So I'd love to keep the communication open as we keep on developing it.
Absolutely. So it's Vestaspec.com.
Yes, sir.
Now, and I'm just curious, man, because I'm always, in the market of trying to take advantage and improve my business. Do you have, any idea, are you going to charge like a certain amount per, and I know this is way down the road, but I just want you to be thinking about it, per inspector, per report, or, how, like if a multi-level inspector group wants to start doing it, or a single person, have any idea? And then obviously there would be ongoing, because maintenance and stuff. Do you have any ideas?
The thought we've had, and this is an area we're open for feedback on too from guys, but the thought I've had, especially that works really well, is paying per report, but the more reports you do, the cheaper it gets. So there's a base level you pay to get all of these services. We're gonna have a scheduling system built in there too, and so it's gonna be your one-stop shop for all of your needs, for your inspection needs. But unless you have a better structure, the structure of paying per report and then getting cheaper the more you do, that seems to work well for the guy starting out, and for guys like yourself and then myself who are doing more volume. It gets cheaper as you do more volume too.
Yeah, there was one software that I looked at that I really, really, really liked, and we almost went with that, and it had a lot of stuff, but they charge per report, and man, I couldn't get them to do what you were saying, or maybe, I don't know, it was going to be ridiculously expensive. I mean, at a certain number, and I was just like, man, I can't justify. I mean, it is probably the Cadillac of things, but I'm like, I can't justify that, man. I mean, it's probably 20% better than everything we've looked at, but 300% more expensive. So I can't make that math work,
Absolutely.
So
hopefully we can talk more about that in the future.
Absolutely. And remind me at the end of the podcast to throw out that website again, vestaspec.com, because
yes, sir.
Everybody who comes on here, it's a trade-off. You trade value and advice, and hopefully we get some back. And all the listeners, all I ask is you go and give this guy some like and check out his stuff, and give him a little love, because he's certainly going to give you some in this podcast. So what advice, this is probably good, Kyle, because you're relatively new and been pretty successful. What advice would you give for somebody starting out in the business today?
That's good. I think the advice I would have is just focus on leading yourself. And then as you lead yourself well, you'll be able to lead other people. And, leading, that means starting to act like you have a boss, that's telling you, how your inspection routine should be, how you should show up professionally to the job, how you should be on time, how you should get your reports out in a timely manner, how you should interact with clients. If you're starting to act like you're working for somebody else and that person has a really high standard for you, then as you're either a one-man shop, you will be more successful because you're holding yourself to a really high standard. Or if you do decide to hire some guys and build a multi-inspector company at some point, you will already have had that base level of leadership instilled, and it'll be easier for you to convey that to your guys if you're living up to what the expectations you're expecting of them. Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, I talked to somebody one time, family member. It's always a family member. They're like, yeah, I want to open my own business so that I don't have to work as much. I'm like, oh my God, don't open your own business. I mean, here it is Sunday. We're doing a podcast. I've done a bunch of work this morning. I'm sure you've done something. I mean, you're never off. But at the same time, I can go see my kids. I've never missed a game. I've never missed so I mean, I can make it work. And I might be back working at 7:00 at night, but you can make time for the things that are important. That's the cool part about it. But you don't work less, you work a heck of a lot more. Now, on the flip side of that, what's the best advice you ever got? That, I kind of used. So the next one is going to be that was kind of my answer to the question you just asked. Was to lead yourself well. The best advice I've ever got is to lead yourself well, and so you can lead others. The best advice I got starting out is, and for starting out your business, is to not despise humble beginnings. There's a proverb that says that in the Bible. Do not despise humble beginnings, and that is something that spoke to me hugely when first starting out in this business. If I look back now at the first business cards I had, my first attempt at a website, my old beat up 96 Ford Ranger that I started doing all my inspections in. I mean, it is just like, sometimes you just got to get started and don't beat yourself up. Just go out there and do the best you can with what you have.
Well, I'm going to make you feel a little better about that. I have a 97 Mazda B2300, which is the same thing as a Ford Ranger. I'm still driving it. I'm still driving it. So don't feel bad. And you know what's crazy is I just listened to this book. I always listen to books on Audible and podcasts because we're all, I call it Windshield University. About it's called Shoe Dog. It's by Phil Knight, the guy. You're close to Oregon. He went to he started Nike. Him and his track coach, and Nike is this mega brand now. One of the most well recognized. Dude, it started out they about went belly up 6 or 7 times. I mean, they were hanging on by a thread. I mean, it didn't start. You talk about humble beginnings. I mean, Nike almost never happened. I mean, so it made me feel a little better because I certainly had humble beginnings, and it sounds like you did too.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, Kyle, you know as well as I do that if you do enough home inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. You get that call. You did an inspection for me 6 months ago. As soon as I hear, if it's a week ago, it's probably just clarification. But if it's something a couple of months ago or back, it's not going to be a good call. Why? So, Kyle, you inspected the house for me 6 months ago. My contractor's out here and said you should have seen this. What? How do you handle that? What's your process?
Just the question gets my heart beating a little bit. I'd say I've got a little more comfortable with taking those calls as we've done more jobs, because more of those calls come up the more jobs you do.
Yep.
But one of the first things is, as I've heard it mentioned many times, is you want to get on it as soon as possible. Have some communication with them. So my process, if our office takes one of those calls, they're going to take the call, text me and let me know, hey, this person just called. They're unhappy. They're going to try to forward me as many notes as they could get from that phone call, and they'll have the property address of the inspection and the phone number. So even if I'm out in the field, I'll get that text, and I know I'm calling them. I'm going to call them right in between my next 2 jobs. And before I call them, I'm going to pull up my report real quick, and just so I can refresh my memory on if I was there, what the house was looked like, or what the home was even like. If one of our guys was there, then at least I've kind of got a base understanding to talk with them about. And then I'll just call them and I start asking questions. I want to let them know that I'm listening, that I'm interested, that they are actually talking to me. I don't identify myself. I try not to identify myself as the owner of the company. I am working in the role of inspection manager right now, inspector manager. So I operate in that role, especially when I'm making these calls. And I have my notepad with me. I have the report on my tablet right here, and I'm just writing down notes of what they're saying and being empathetic towards what they're going through.
Right.
And that goes a long way.
And I will say this, you probably figured this out, and a lot of listeners too. Not always, but a lot of times they say, this wasn't on the report. And half the time it is. They haven't even looked at it. So, but they get me believing it because I haven't seen the report. I'm automatically thinking that. So I have learned just to say, like you said, be empathetic, but I'm not agreeing that it's not on the report because I haven't seen the report yet. But I'm like, you're great. You're pulling it up there. I usually, I always call them right away, but tell them, after I'm done, I'm going to pull up the report. But do call them. Definitely call them, because if you don't call them, they're getting madder and madder and mad. And, they're talking to more friends. And, you know how friends are. Oh, if that was me, I'd call my lawyer. So at least if you call them, tell them you're on it, you take a little bit of hot air out of that, I think. So that's great.
And another thing to tack on that real quick, Preston, is one of our coaches has encouraged me, and I've started doing this. I contact their real estate agent as well too. Oftentimes I'll, especially if I know the agent really well, I'll call the agent real quick and let them know that that their client had some questions, some things came up, but I'm working on coming up with a solution and seeing how we can help. That way, if they've already talked with their agent, it at least lets the agent know that, okay, Allegiance Home Inspection is working on this, it's on their radar, and I think it helps take some of the steam off of the agent, so they're not getting pissed off too or getting bad information. And they're our customer. They're the one who's going to still hopefully be feeding us more business in the first. We have to take care of the person we work for, but we have to let our customer know that we're working on taking care of their client as well. So I've been trying to make sure I involve them in the conversation. And sometimes I've found out the real estate agent will let you know that person is just bat crazy. And
I was thinking that when you said that. I've had that happen. Most of the time, the agent's helpful. Now, a couple of times, I've had the agent that was BSC. The client was okay, but most of the time, if one person's crazy, it's usually the client.
Good.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, I'm going to pause here just a second for sponsors, and then we'll come back. We're at the halfway point.
Hi, I'm Preston Sandlin, and I own Home Inspection Carolina, and I wanted to show you a way that you can get more home inspection leads. So what you can do, you obviously can do a pre-inspection, but I understand some people don't want to do that. But what it is, we set out a sign, and this sign is going to have information about the house. When you text that, you could have information about the house. You could have a home inspection discount. You could also lead them to a website. So this is my daughter, Sarah Margaret. Say hi.
Hi.
So Sarah Margaret, you pretend like you're buying this house, and I want you to text. You're riding by, doing the kiki dance, whatever, and you see, hey, I'm interested in this house. I'd like you to text info to that number, okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and do that now. She's interested in the house. So for more information on this house, she's going to text that and a home inspection discount. Okay, so I just got the lead in the buyer. Now, you should get something in a second. So what'd you get? So click on the top one there, yeah. So you'll see what she gets. So she's going to get information about the house. And meanwhile, I got the lead. All right, so scroll up just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So there's like a little video about the house. Of course, your phone's really slow. There's multiple pictures of the house and whatnot. And well, there goes the video finally. I'm gonna have to edit this a little bit. But the cool thing is read what it says there. Read that out loud, Samara.
This is a demo house. It is not for sale. It is for demonstration purposes only. Information about the house would go here if this house was actually for sale. If you are interested in getting a home inspection, call 704-542-6575 with the code HIC 2018. You can receive a $23 discount on a home inspection on this house or any house you decide to buy in this area. Discount code HIC 2018. 704-542-6575.
Okay. Now, well, I talk a little bit. Text that same number, text info1. You can just use the same number, text info1 now. So what I'm going to do is show you how we did a couple of other things with it. But again, the whole thing is to drive leads. Now I have the lead and I can follow up with her. She's a potential buyer. I can do a drip campaign. Let me go one. Now click on that. What you got for no, top there. Edit this. See how there's a discount code there. Home inspection discount. All right, last one. Go back to that same text and text info 3. So this is something of value that's not a discount code. It's an inspection list. So I can put that sign anywhere. And again, see, I'm getting the lead. So I'll click on here to the lead. And you see, I just got these leads. Is your number 704-7? Oh, I better not say that out loud because guys will be calling you. But obviously, all right. So did you do info 3? Mm-hmm. All right. Now click on that top one and make show what that shows on there. So, all 3, I captured the lead. I did information about the house with a home inspection discount. I can connect it to a URL that has a home inspection discount, a URL with a something giveaway, a checklist, radon information, you name it. But we capture the lead. So everybody who texts this, we get that home inspection lead. They're going to need a home inspection. They're also going to need probably a realtor. So the realtor is going to like us as well. So check out inspectedhouses.com. It's a new way to get leads for your home inspection business and leads for the realtor as well. Thank you.
All right. Well, I just need to see where it flatlined so that I could on the file. Kyle, what's the toughest time you've ever had in your business, and what'd you learn from it?
I think my wife and I would both agree this last winter, around February or so, was our toughest time so far. You have those daily or weekly ups and downs with unhappy campers and stuff, but this last winter was a little tight. We've been growing rapidly and just managing that growth well. I'd say our winter fund got pretty down near nothing in February. And we had another inspector who was on the tail end of training, so we were still pouring a lot into him. And then in February, one of the best things is we found out we were pregnant, and that was, obviously everything good about that, but
new financial pressure on you.
Yeah, just realizing okay, it's time to start making sure we're doing this right and taking the business seriously. And because of our faith in Jesus, we chose not to worry, especially me. I'm not worrying. I know that I have a great provider who takes care of my needs. So I didn't allow that to worry or turn into worry or fear. But it's okay, I want to make sure I'm doing good by our team members too, and being responsible with the business so that they are able to stay on the team.
Absolutely. And I don't know how other guys are. Everything's fine, but at different times when I first started out, there were times I had to take money out of my savings to pay everybody. And there were a lot of financial worries that I never let get to my wife or my kids. And it's tough, man. It's tough. If they only knew. Everything's good now, but there are some times that, I didn't want to burden them with that, but at the same time, there's some stuff eating me up, But, if you keep doing good things, have faith, it's going to work. It's going to work. And I knew it was going to work, but I was like, I can't keep taking money out of my savings. I can only do that a couple of times. I paid it all back, thank goodness.
Good.
But anyway. Well, Kyle, do you have social media? Any tips on social media? And you're young. To me, compared to me, you're younger, so you're more. My generation. That all came about after us, so I had to learn a lot of new stuff. But do you do social media? Any tips for it?
I do. My wife's really gifted in that area, and she helped me get an Instagram started. So we have an Instagram. I started Facebook. Right out of the gates, I had a business Facebook page right away. Just got on Instagram within the last year, and I try to post on there at least a couple times a week, some sort of an instructional video or something interesting we found. And then so Facebook and Instagram are the main platforms we're on right now.
Awesome. What are your, and I'll ask again at the end, but for all the listeners, let's go follow this guy if you're on Instagram, and go give him a like on his Facebook page. What are they? That is
it's a Allegiance Home Inspection. I have to say I'm a little bit of a rookie on that too, so I don't have our call letters, but if you look up Allegiance Home Inspection, it should be the main one on there, and we're out in Washington State. So
Okay, and what's the Instagram handle or whatever?
Might have to come back to that.
Yeah, all right, we'll come back to that one. Let's see. How do you handle price shoppers? You get that one. How much you charge? And it's pretty obvious they're just calling around, and if you don't change this conversation a little bit, they're just looking for the Walmart. So how do you handle it when somebody calls around? They're just price shopping, and for all the listeners out there, you do not want to be the lowest price. You want to give the most value. That's it.
Yeah. We've definitely gotten better at that over the last few years. As we start, we definitely start, we have a script for that. So whoever's answering our phone follows a script, and our script talks about what's unique about us. So we are definitely on the higher end of the prices in our area now, but we offer more value.
Right.
And if somebody's calling, and there's some people, some people will disqualify themselves. If they're only worried about the lowest price, they may not be the person we want to work with, because they might not value our service as much.
And that'll be the one you have trouble with too. I guarantee you. There's some inspections you don't want. When I first started out, I thought I wanted them all. No. I'm like, let me give you the number of that's terrible. It's funny, I had Ruben on here, and he's got a video. When you go to his thing, the first thing right out of the gate he tells you is he's the most expensive.
That's awesome.
I love it, man. But then he proceeds to tell you like all the stuff they do and all the value. So, there's a reason a BMW costs more than my Mazda 97. 97 Mazda with 150,000 miles on it. I still love that little truck, though. So I know you can't predict the future, Kyle, but, you've seen some changes, and, you got your hand on the pulse of things, and good for you, man. You've made friends with a lot of other guys, and it's smart, man. Learn on their learning curve. I wish I would have. You've got to a lot of places a lot faster than I did, because I'm pretty hard-headed. What do you have any idea? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think home inspections 5 years, 10 years from now? How do you think it's going to change?
That's a great question. I see industry continuing to mature, and part of that is more multi-inspector companies, less guys just driving around with a ladder on their pickup that just came from a construction job site. I think that this is becoming it's more of a craft now. And with that, there's a lot of value for somebody joining a multi-inspector company, because not everybody wants to go and handle the business side of stuff that comes with running a company. So a lot of guys that are really good technicians or really good at doing a job and serving people, they'll become more attracted to multi-inspector companies, especially as the multi-inspector companies are starting to figure out how to add value to their team. And then,
some of these guys that I've interviewed, including you, I'm sitting there thinking, man, it'd be more fun to work for you than to be me. But go ahead, sorry.
You can come on out to Washington and join our team anytime, Preston. We got a marketing position for you. Along with that is the technology. Technology's come a long way, and I think that we're just going to start figuring out more ways that technology fits into this industry.
Me too. I hope, and the one thing I see a lot more of is like virtual reality. I hope we don't get to a point where you can inspect a house virtual reality then the person could be sitting in a chair somewhere in another country, maybe, inspecting that house. But hopefully we haven't come that far yet. But I love taking advantage of technology. I just hope it doesn't get to the point it replaces us.
Agreed.
I don't think we're on the chopping block yet, but so we kind of touched on this earlier, have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor? I know you have. Anybody who's been doing inspections more than a year has, where the contractor, the first thing they want to do is say, you're a home inspector, should have seen this. How do you respond? What's your thoughts? Is there any way I don't think we can prevent it, but we can, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
The story that comes to mind is our first inspector that joined our team. He was just getting to the tail end of training, and so we were both on this inspection, and he had taken ownership of the crawl space area. So he did the crawl space. we're putting the report together later. There was some rodent activity in the crawl space. No big deal. We find that in 8 out of 10 homes. Sure. So just a normal thing. We send the report out. Well, I get a call like 2 or 3 weeks later from the listing agent actually the buyer's agent that is they're ticked off because they said that there are no rodent droppings down there. They had a pest company come out, and the pest company said there's no rodent droppings. The guy that inspector just found some dead beetles, and so we're pretty close with the listing agent on that home. So he let me know this was going on, and the buyer's agent basically wanted me to pay for the time that the pest company came out there. And I said, sure, absolutely. If we're wrong and we called out beetles as rodent droppings, we'll use that as a learning experience. And I'm sure we won't do that again. Right. But I would like an opportunity to come out and look in that crawl space again. So
I bet it was rodent droppings, wasn't it? Go ahead.
Yeah, I went out there, and I actually put some in a bag, and I sent a picture to the I had a bunch of pictures, emailed the pictures. The listing agent said, because he and I know each other pretty well, he said, you should send that little baggie of droppings to the buyer's agent, because the guy was just being he was being a headache the whole way around. But
let me tell you something, and all the listeners out there, I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of times pest control guys hate us if we're doing a wood destroying insect report. They feel like we're coming in on their turf or whatever. And, even though you're licensed or whatever, I'm licensed, man, I can't tell you. I mean, I'm friends with a couple of them, but some of them, they will immediately do what you just said, and I'm like, what? Or if we get anything wrong, instead of, if I ever go behind you or another inspector or another thing and I find something, the first thing I'm going to do is call you and say, hey, man, you may want to look at this, and then that's the way everybody here should be. But there's some people that first thing they want to do is call the state. Let me give you the number. I mean, immediately just trying to get the guy in trouble, when half the time I'm, excuse my language, but the dumbass is not thinking that sooner or later you're going to inspect something that he inspected. Don't you think it would be the right thing to do, the smart thing to do, to pick up the phone and just call him and say, hey, I found something a little different. Can we talk? And let's work this out. Don't get anybody upset, and figure out how we can make everything right and nobody gets upset. Anyway, sorry about my soapbox, but pest control guys, some of them are cool, but some of them are going to feel threatened by you. But that makes me mad. He probably thought you weren't going to come back.
Yeah, and it just made me wonder if he even went in the crawl space, because it's like, I mean, I think just about everybody knows what a rodent drop-in looks like. So
yeah. Nah, that's crazy. Did he have them under a contract or anything? Under some sort of pest control contract or anything?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but that would have been a good one for me to ask at the time.
Because we've had some where we found termites, and they come out, and of course they're already mad because they're under a termite bond. So how dare they find, and most of the times we've won that argument. I mean, there have been a few times my guys didn't see the treatment or something, but I mean, it happens. But I'm not out to get anybody else in trouble. We're all working the same houses. Everybody's going to go behind everybody else, and it's a lot better if we all get along. Plus, it's the right thing to do.
That's right.
And every time I meet one, I'm like, look, man, I'll help you out. You help me. If you see something I missed, call me. I'll make it right. But don't throw me under the bus. I won't throw you under the bus.
Deal.
Now, speaking of which, and I saw that on the forum, I don't know if you have an answer for this. It got better, then it got worse, then it got better. And I've actually a little bit of a hypocrite because I got bad on it one time because I got into it with Nick, but we're all good now. How do you keep it how do you think we keep it more professional in the forums? I mean, you don't see judges on judges forums dogging each other out. And, when it's helpful, when it works good, it's great. Like the one that you got, I mean, everybody helps everybody, everybody's positive. But, you've seen some where somebody will post something, and then somebody will post something just to say something to try to make them look bad or something. Have you seen any of that?
I've certainly seen that. And I think I learned when I was really brand new in this industry that was just something that happened. So I think the only thing you can do is do you. I mean, I only have control of what I say over the keyboard. And there's been times where I've got myself into some of those debates, and the few times I've ever done that, it's just like nothing good came of it. So I just avoid those. And I believe that even with all the crap on the forums, there's good nuggets to pick through. So I stay pretty plugged in on them and just look for the good stuff.
There's some really knowledgeable people, and I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I have let it go a couple times. I never started it. I'll say that. But if we all check our egos at the door and just, hey man, let's just help each other. Everybody was new. Everybody was a rookie, and, I'm 49 years old, man. I'm not, we all age out, at some point. I feel like it's part of our job to help, don't give guys a hard time. But by the same token, before somebody asks it, I've heard this before too, try to figure out some of the stuff on your own, I've had guys like that work for me before. Just ask me every little question. I'm like, no, you ask me after you did your research. And if you can't find it, then ask me. But I can't answer every single question you have. All right.
That's good.
Go ahead.
I've been guilty of asking questions right out of the gate too, and not looking into it first. So I'm working on that one.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Last question on kind of the throwing under the bus thing, and then it'll get a little more fun. And we're winding down here, and I appreciate your time, Kyle. Do you have those? I know you do. They're everywhere. Fear-mongering contractors. Every house has mold, needs mold remediation. There's a crack in the heat exchanger that looks like a Phillips head screwdriver, and there's carbon monoxide filling up the house. But you guys do what you want. Do you have fear-mongering contractors in your area, and do you ever get a call back on one you inspected because the fear-mongering contractor's been there?
I think we've dodged that bullet so far. I'm sure they're out there. I haven't had any real bad experiences with that. But one way to get ahead of that, I know, is the more we can help educate our clients that it's good to get multiple opinions on things rather than just going with the first contractor that comes out there. But yeah, fortunately, I haven't had any real bad experiences with that.
Give it to me.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure.
That was incredibly optimistic, wasn't it? Well, it's just, it hadn't been as bad as it used to be, but the mold guys were the worst for a while. And I'm not saying all mold companies, but, I finally figured out a lot of these guys are mold remediation salesmen. They're not. I mean, they're wanting to sell a mold remediation, whether you need it or not. And that's the problem. But anyway, I've got on my soapbox enough. All right, a fun one, but remember I told iTunes it's G-rated. What is the wildest, craziest, or weirdest thing either you or one of your inspectors has ever found on a home inspection?
Good question. Yeah, I have two fairly brief stories on this one. A few weeks ago, Richard was on an inspection, and he opens up the attic hatch, and a little piece of paper comes fluttering down, and it's in an envelope. There's an envelope that comes fluttering down out of the attic, and he looks at it, and it says, "Whoever finds this, please open." So at that point, he's like, "What? Is somebody in the attic? Is this a hostage note? What is this?" And he opens it up, and it was a letter from a 12-year-old girl written 11 years prior. She must have lived in the home, and in the short letter, she just talks about what her favorite colors are, it's like a bio about herself, and who she has a crush on. She's in the 12th grade, and it was just really funny seeing a little snapshot in time.
Kind of like a time in a bottle or time capsule type sort of thing.
That's exactly what it was. It also makes you think, no one's been in that attic for 11 years.
That's cool. We found a message in the bottle at the beach one time, my kids and I, same sort of thing. And then we put one back in there, and we threw it off the boat when we were on the ferry. But I asked the guy, I was like, "You're not going to get me for littering, are you?" What was the other?
The other one, about a month ago, I went to this. People have found us on Yelp, and they scheduled a home inspection for a family member lives in the family house. And I get out there, and it looks like a total drug house. I mean, there's cars parted out all over the yard. The home's in awful shape. And long story short, I knocked on the door, waited forever, and finally this lady comes down, and she couldn't even have she couldn't do more than one word sentences. And so I thought, okay, I mean, that's fine. Never know what people's health issues are or anything. But then I do my best to explain why I'm there. And I walk around the side of the home to go, as I'm getting my photos of the outside of the house. and there's a 40-year-old man passed out in the backyard in a lawn chair. And it was like, oh man. So I decided to leave that job. I didn't feel safe. But who knows in a job like that, if you're going to start doing the inspection and going through rooms, who knows if you're going to come across people that aren't expecting you there. So I just,
at the crack house or something, man. Something going on there. Wow.
I left, and then I called the family member and I let him know why I left. But it was a kind of an odd situation.
One of my guys got a gun pulled on him last week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it was the craziest thing. I mean, he knew they were coming. I'm like, dude, you don't pull a gun on anybody. I mean, that's you need to have your gun, your permit, everything taken away from you. I mean, I don't know. It was like, I don't know. I'm not for sure who you are. Show me some identification. I'm like, it wasn't me, but I'm like, dude, do not point a gun at somebody. And you got your house for sale. People,
wow, that's crazy.
He didn't get shot or anything. Well, what's the best part of your job and why? And what's the worst part of your job and why? Oh, wait a minute. What's the craziest callback you ever had first?
Oh, I mean, there's been quite a few over the last few years, but the last one that sticks out was a 1975 flip home that was, I mean, I wrote up 100 plus items about this home, just all sorts of crazy, weird things. And I got a call a week later, or no, maybe 2 days later, the client, we do a 200% guarantee. So if somebody's not happy right at the end of the inspection, we'll refund and then we'll pay for somebody else to do the job. That's if we do something awful.
Right.
Well, the guy called back 2 days later demanding his money back because apparently there was a window or two that were difficult to open in his opinion. And he was really ticked off about it. But as I've heard said on here a lot, and our coaches will tell us, if you have somebody like that, I mean, first thing we did, we sent out the waiver and we gave him a refund, because if that's what he's coming up with after 2 days, I mean, we don't want to
let's get a divorce. Let's get a divorce. There's no telling. That's what I tell them. I'm like, they showed their crazy card early. Let's go ahead and get that divorce. It's a Tijuana divorce.
Yeah.
Now, what's the best part of your job and why? And what's the worst part of your job and why?
I mean, that could be answered with one word: people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great working with people on the good days. It's just great working with people throughout this time when they're buying a home. It's an exciting time. And then the best part the last couple of years has been having a team of guys. That's one thing I missed when I was by myself, was the camaraderie and having good people around. So that's been the best part. The worst part is kind of that little bit at the back of your head that's like, these people love me now, but they might call me trying to sue me in 3 weeks or in a couple months. That's the worst part, is having to keep that thought in check.
I tell my guys the same thing too. And I'm like, be as nice as you can, win them over. It will help, but people will, when it's something about money, people will get all funny about money. And, I don't know. And I always tell people there's two places that you are at some point during your career: complacent, you feel like you know it all. And then other times you get a couple of callbacks, or you go and take a CE, all of a sudden you become vigilante, like vigilante home inspector. I feel like those are the two extremes, and you don't want to be either extreme. You want to be in the middle somewhere where you never know it all. You never know, but never get complacent. Always check all the lowest spot. Even when you think you know it all, you don't. And at the same time, you'll go through a rough spell. And they always come in threes. I hate to tell you that. I'll get a complaint, and I'm like, oh, boy, 2 more are coming, watch. And I don't know why, but, then finally Chip and I are like, all right, well, that's the third one. We're good for a while. I don't know why that happens. But anyway, don't get complacent. Don't get vigilantes. Stay in the middle.
That's good.
What's your best low-cost or no-cost marketing strategy that you have?
Man, the one I used, especially when it was just me starting out, handwritten thank you cards.
Yeah.
When I told myself I got too busy after a while to do this all the time, but handwritten thank you cards, that helped me immensely, especially at the beginning. And that's something we should start doing again.
I should too, because nobody does that. And when you open up your mail, you look through it, and it's computer generated. Well, if there's one handwritten, you'll open that because somebody took some time. As long as it's not a font. I'm looking at it. Is that a handwriting font?
Yeah.
No, I like it. I did that for a little bit, and I got away from it too. I need to do it. Well, we're rolling along here, almost done. Like 3 more questions, or actually 2. Kyle, if you had to move to a brand new city or a brand new area, same market size, you got all your guys, all your equipment, room and board's taken care of, all the technical stuff's taken care of. It's just you don't know anybody, and you got to start marketing. You got $5,000. What are you going to do with that $5,000 in the first week?
$5,000. I would get a very basic like landing page. It would need to be a really basic website for that price, but I would just get something started. And then off that, you can do your free Google business page. I mean, you can start a Facebook page for free. You can do a lot of those. You can get an Instagram account started for free. A lot of that stuff is easy to get going. Just takes a little bit of time. And then I'd get some basic business cards that are simple but look professional. And then from there, I'd spend a lot of money on taking people out to coffee and just getting a feel for the local market, trying to hear what the pain points are in that local market, and just getting to know people, listening to their about their business, especially real estate agents and mortgage companies, listening to about their business, and then talking about myself and our business. And I mean, I think and then I would probably buy a big, huge box of cards so I could start writing handwritten thank you cards again.
That's a good one. No, I need to do that again. I need to do it. Or pay somebody to do it, but it's got to be handwritten. It can't be a font. Yeah. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Man, I wish I had a good one for this. I don't have any good questions. I think there's pretty good variety there.
Oh, that's good. You give me a lot of good nuggets here. Any questions you'd like to ask me? And I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I have 2. The first one would be, what's a lesson you've learned about leading team members since you went from just being yourself to where now you've got multiple team members?
Delegation. And it's hard for me, as an entrepreneur or, a business owner, we do everything. And we feel like, nobody can do it as good as us. And, it's hard to get somebody to start doing inspections. Somebody told me one time, if somebody can do it, 80% as good as you, well, that's pretty dang good, and, there's only so much time in the day. So delegating authority, doing and trying to do the things that you're good at and hire people to do the things that you're not good at. And also marrying a woman who's good at some things that you're not good at. That's a big no. But I think that's it. And I still struggle with that because I'm the only marketing person, and I really should hire a marketing person. But I feel like that's like, the thing I'm good at. But, I mean, I can't be everywhere all the time and run a business, So still struggle with it. I hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you. The next question I had is, man, how would you feel if somebody else was wearing crazy pants like you do?
It's all right. I don't care. I know Roy, he does like crazy suits and stuff, and we're buddies. And what's that guy? Clayton does some crazy stuff. Just anything to be remembered and embarrass your kids, That's good. I know, what is that? I saw this speaker one time, and he said he always wore a purple shirt just because that would be the thing that people always associate with. I've heard somebody else say they always wore a bow tie, or just something that people associate with you. There's a realtor here that I think is pretty awesome. They got these Wayfarer sunglasses, and he orders them, cheap by the bunch, and he has like his logo on it. So every time he has a client buy a house, they all take a picture with those Wayfarer. I think that's brilliant. I mean, he's probably getting them $3 or $4 a piece. And then everywhere he goes, he has pictures with the Wayfarer sunglasses. He goes on a cruise and he has the towel animals with the Wayfarer sunglasses. So he's kind of made that his brand, And I told him, I was like, darn, if you weren't my market, I would do that. But then it would be so obvious that I copied you. But so there's a good one for you. If you want to do that, get some Wayfarer. I think he orders them by the box load, and he's got his logo on it, and everybody wants them. I mean, too, and so every time you do an inspection, I mean, I don't know if that gets expensive, but I'm sure he doesn't pay more than $1 for them. Probably less than that. He probably orders them by the thousand. So
that's a good idea.
Just something to create a brand or a buzz or something. I don't know. Roy does, he does the whole beard thing. I told him, and he wears crazy clothes. I told him what he should do is get the, the little, everywhere he goes, he should get like the beard and have everybody put a beard up, like a fake beard, and take a picture or something. That would be awesome.
That's a good idea.
So I don't know. I mean, and every time you do it, I don't know. My mind, I need to take my pills, man. Squirrel.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, Kyle, you've been great, man. You've dropped down some really good nuggets here and lots of stuff to learn. So before you go, I want to get all the places for all the listeners to go and give you some likes, some love, some follows. Let's go with your software, your home inspection site, Facebook site, and Instagram if you found it.
Yeah, well, also, thank you for the time to do this. Thanks for all the great people you've had on before me to interview. Man, a lot of nuggets just listening back in the history of people on this show. And, yeah, thanks for just doing this to add value to the community. Other than that, Allegiance Home Inspection is the company name, Facebook. And then VestaSpec is our software company that is going to be adding huge value to the industry. Our goal is to make it easy for the new guys starting out to get rolling with all their business systems, and also coming from the multi-inspector point of view, we want to make it a business decision that makes sense for the company. And then I'll send over to Preston any of our Instagram information, so he can put it in the bio below, since I don't have it.
You had to get your wife. Where's my wife? She's the one that did it. I have to get my kids. It's funny. I laugh when you said that, because I'm on Instagram, but my kids put me on it. They put me on Snapchat, but I just can't. I can't do Snapchat, man. The whole streaks thing, I just don't get it, man. I'm trying to be like Gary Vaynerchuk and embrace everything, but I've tried to do Snapchat 3 times. And it lasted like 3 days each time, and I'm just like, I can't do it. But anyway, well, thank you so much, Kyle. I will get this up tomorrow, and I appreciate your time, brother.